Good afternoon, friends. Stephen and Jana here with Israeli News Live, and we are live today discussing the seven Noahide laws and how that Charlie Kirk's death is being used to promote that very agenda. And Jana, you want to pick this up, and we'll get right into this. Israel 365 News is one of the articles that you sent me here to be able to bring this point to light.
Yes, well, the Jewish unofficial Sanhedrin, it's still unofficial,
Okay.
but that's kind of like behind the veil preparation for the future New World Order when Jewish religion is going to be the religion of the world. That's going to be
Yes.
the New World Order religion.
Yes.
Okay, it's going to be Judaism with Noahidism for the Gentiles. And so they're preparing the Sanhedrin in the background.
Hmm.
The membership inside Sanhedrin is a secret.
Right.
Okay, so, but they're giving statements and they use the death of Charlie Kirk to
Right.
promote the Noahide laws. So, as you will see, they were using um, back then, we know that Charlie Kirk was a major promoter of Israel and he was used by Israel. He was an Israeli asset. So they used him mainly to influence young generation in United States toward far right propaganda, which is very pro-Israel, pro-Zionist propaganda. So our theory is that when Charlie started to kind of wake up, he was trying to put in little tiny seeds and things that didn't make sense to him anymore,
Right.
right? And this is something Israel could not handle. They
No,
could not risk that.
because they affect APAC is the main organization in U.S. politics that
Mhm.
controls both sides of the government. They fund both sides.
Yeah.
This is why when Netanyahu comes before the Congress and the Senate in Washington, he gets a standing ovation. It doesn't matter which side
Oh,
of the aisle you're on. I mean,
yeah.
you have very, very few politicians that have ever gone against APAC in our entire history of APAC being in control like that. And now you have someone like Charlie Kirk that started TPUSA, and the thing that he was affecting the college campuses with a pro-Israel platform, very pro-Israel, pro-family, and he is affecting the grassroots voters that are upcoming politicians. And this is where Israel needed control.
Yes. And when he started asking certain questions or making certain statements that were kind of questioning Israeli politics and some of their, things they are doing, like genocide. This is what they could not handle. And especially they cannot handle it if they financially supported Charlie, which they
Yeah.
did. Charlie was fully financially supported by Israel. So you don't do that when Israel pays you to do propaganda, and then you go against them or you raise some questions. You just simply don't do that. So that was a message to everybody with platform who is paid by Israel.
Yeah.
This is how
And,
you're going to
and
end
with
up.
Charlie, it was easy for him to accept the monies from Jewish donors because he was pro-Israel
Yeah.
initially. But when, like you said, when he began to wake up,
Hmm.
that was uh, totally different. And I could imagine not only was he being called an anti-Semite, as he says to Megyn Kelly, but
Hmm.
you also have the aspect of his wife. I mean, her father is was the one that started the Raytheon in Israel, a weapons manufacturing company. Also worked for Donald Trump. She was part of the beauty pageants of Donald Trump and stuff, and there's a lot of questions swirling around their marriage, their relationship.
Mm.
I don't want to get into that so
Right.
much, but nonetheless, it is kind of I could see where the tensions could grow even within his own family because he's beginning, and we'll come back to this article, but let's just look at some of the things he was saying on this clip here, if you're okay with moving on to
Sure.
this real quick.
Mhm.
Then we'll go back to the article
Mhm.
and cover what 365 is saying there. Listen, and it's more, I think it's important to see this in light of what they're going to say.
Mhm.
I gotta be careful the way I say this. They're gonna try to ethnically cleanse Gaza. Yep. I mean, I don't use that term lightly, okay?
Before Charlie Kirk was killed, he said Charlie Kirk fears that Israel will kill him if he continues ahead, providing space for Israel critics.
Charlie kind of starting to question the amount of influence that Israel has in U.S., not only domestic politics, but foreign politics as well.
I just don't think we should go to war with Iran. Is a nuclear weapon to Iran a threat to America? Probably. Could be. It's a threat to Israel, but is it a threat to America? I mean, India has nuclear weapons. Pakistan has nuclear weapons.
But he was one of the only people to go to the Oval Office and say, sir, I totally understand, but a war with Iran could really hurt our country. He took massive abuse from his own donors. And they expressed it to him in a very intense way. I know because he showed me.
He's talking about October 7th possibly being an inside job.
I still have the same gut instinct that I did initially. I find this very hard to believe. I've been to that Gaza border.
He starts to question whether Jeffrey Epstein was an Israeli Mossad agent.
Epstein, with his little friend Ghislaine and Ghislaine's father, Robert Maxwell, who is obviously a spy of the Israeli intelligence agencies, the evidence that shows that Epstein was a creation of either Mossad, Israeli intelligence.
And it all blew out into the open at TPUSA's July Youth Summit.
Yeah.
Might have been Tallahassee.
Yeah, Tucker gave the speech.
Right.
Jeffrey Epstein was working on behalf of intel services. It's extremely obvious to anyone who watches that this guy had direct connections to a foreign government. Now, no one's allowed to say that that foreign government is Israel because we have been somehow cowed.
But it wasn't just Tucker. Megyn Kelly had started questioning Israel and
Mossad, given his connection to Ghislaine Maxwell.
Comic Dave Smith, who, like myself, is a Jewish anti-Zionist.
But there's no reason why we even have to be enemies with Iran. This is Israel's problem. We don't need to be involved in that. Sorry, we got our own issues here.
The crowd was cheering in this cathartic way. Then Tucker comes out, says, you should have your citizenship yanked if you fight for a foreign army.
How can somebody pledge allegiance to two countries at the same time?
Obviously, that's absurd. And I know you're speaking about Israel. Anybody, by the way, who serves in a foreign military should lose his citizenship immediately. There are a lot of Americans who've served in the IDF. They should lose their citizenship.
After that, he started getting publicly attacked. Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin, the two biggest Zionist enforcers in the media. Laura Loomer, we all know who she is. She publicly attacked Charlie Kirk and said he basically had to step down.
Honestly, the way you are treating me is so repulsive. I have text messages, Megan, calling me an anti-Semite. There's another article out in the Times of Israel today. I could read it on air. I was just reading before I got on. Charlie, what are you doing? Like, what am I doing? I'm sorry. Like, let's just take a step back here. Like, I'm an American citizen.
Imagine that.
Okay,
right?
so as you can see, even though he was an Israeli asset, and probably because from his whole heart as a Christian in America, you know, how they were grown up in Zionist culture,
Yes.
Israel culture, right? I mean, you and I were so strongly pro-Israel, so you cannot even imagine anything else, or the truth is totally different. So he was pro-Israel from the heart, but then he started to see things and started to wake up. And as he was speaking his heart, you know, he was trying to speak the truth on this. That's what's not tolerated by Israel. They could not handle it or risk it, Steve, because can you imagine? I mean, right now, even the children of the Zionist Christians are anti-Israel. Even the kids of these, you know, Christians that are in their 60s and 70s, all of these people under 30 years of age. There is barely any pro-Israel young person in America.
Right. This is why they needed TPUSA.
Right.
And granted, just a moment looking at our own case as well, we were very pro-Israel.
Mm-hmm.
We were known by very big names. You had people like get my brain to work here for a moment. Sorry about that. When I wrote the book Israel, They Still God's People, I was on television in South Florida. I had Lori Cardozo-Moore on that program with me. Then I got invited out to Coeur d'Alene, Utah there on with Chuck Missler. Then we had, and we were such a strong pro-Zionist. I mean, I had such big names endorsing my second book. You had the Jewish scholar, I forget his name now, but he actually endorsed the book I wrote. And then you had Paul Begley. We ended up going on television, national television for a year as Israeli News Live, or cable TV here in the United States. So we were growing in popularity. But then we began to make a change. We were affecting. Lori Cardozo-Moore told me when we were not even at 100,000 viewers yet, she said, Steve, you are affecting people by the millions and you don't even know you are.
Well,
And
it was going very strong, but then something happened. We started to see, like Charlie, we started to see things and we couldn't handle it. We had to speak the truth, even though it contradicted everything we've been teaching,
yes,
or anything, how we knew the Bible. It was totally contradictory. And of course, you go through certain stages with this. First, you
Yes.
go through denial. It can't be. Remember, I would
yes,
even come back to you and say, Steve, we have to support Israel. I mean, we were in and out, in and out,
yes.
in and
And we're
out.
talking
Because
7-8 years ago.
yes, and then you have denial. Then you have grief. You go through grief because
Yes.
mourning, because you realize that you have been losing time in such nonsense and lies, and you've been lied to from every direction. And then you go through anger stage where you're angry because they lied to you and
Yes.
everybody lied to you. And then you just go through acceptance. You accepted it, you know what the truth is now, and
Now it's time to move forward.
yes, and it's time to speak the truth and get people out of Zionist Christianity because
Right.
it's falsehood, it's heresy.
And then we went to Mark and Susan's church in Lebanon, Tennessee. We were speaking there. This is when we were beginning to speak openly in conferences. We didn't come out, we weren't fully public yet, but we were to some degree. Mark and his wife invited us to their church in Lebanon, Tennessee. You were speaking on the Noahide Laws, a packed out church. The place probably holds 300 people. It was packed. There was standing room only practically, but there were two Israelis there. And Mark comes up to me somewhere during this meeting when you're speaking, and he said, Look, I've got someone assigned to your wife and someone assigned to you. He introduced me to the guy that was there, military people. He said, These two people are concerning us. He said, They're trying to get to you and your wife, and I don't like the vibe that I get from them. One of those guys who spoke fluent Hebrew finally was able to talk to me with Mark and the guy there, and he said, You and your wife are going way off the path, but we want to help you get back on track again and put you with some Christians that can help steer you in the right direction. That was our warning. That was our warning.
And many of them are born today. And even Mike will tell you that, Mike Adams. I mean, he was saying on Twitter that a lot of platforms have been warned, especially since Charlie Kirk's death. And I would actually say platforms who are taking money from Israel have to be very careful what they say right now.
Yes, they do.
Because that is definitely a message to anyone. Netanyahu is now forming new organizations who are going into churches in America
Yes.
to ignite again for Israel and against Palestine. Okay, these churches, and they're starting with Colorado. They're starting on the north, and then they're planning actually coming to Texas. So I was just reading about this, that he's literally financing influencers, paying them like $7,000 just for making comments online.
Yes.
So the kids are making great money speaking pro-Israeli messages on anti-Israeli platforms. And Israel is financing all of this, Steve. So now here, let's go back to the article 365 News. We have an official Sanhedrin who is using death of Charlie Kirk to promote the Noahide laws, and they're basically lifting Charlie Kirk into the sainthood, I would say. Lifting him high up on a pedestal as if that was their own person.
Yes.
I mean, as if he was their, one of their people.
Netanyahu, right after his death, within 20 minutes, I think it was, already was trying to gain the narrative and make Charlie as a very pro-Israel. And this was after Charlie had already rejected.
Yeah, after he told the truth. And now they're here promoting Noahide laws.
Right.
With Charlie
So
Kirk.
it says, the declaration immediately connects Kirk's death to messianic prophecy, quoting extensively from Isaiah, the path to repairing the world, stopping murder and bloodshed and all other injustices committed in the world, is when all nations recognize the choosing of the Holy One. Now, I separated this so you can see this, the Holy One in the people of Israel. Not the Holy One, Jesus Christ, okay? As the prophet Isaiah said. Now, see, Isaiah is not talking about the modern state of Israel. And many people shall go and say, come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, that he may teach us his ways and walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares. All right, that was fulfilled in Christ's ministry. Not that there wasn't still wars going on, but he taught peace.
Well, it was fulfilled in the fact that if you accept Christ in your heart and he lives within you, you do beat your sword into plowshare. Exactly. Because you're not going to war anymore.
Right.
Okay,
now
so
you become a killer. Look what he said to Peter and them, right? They were fishermen. He said, become be fishers of men.
Yes.
Right?
So once you, in a sense that whoever clothes himself or herself with Christ will do this. That's how it's fulfilled even today.
Yes.
But it's not in the state of Israel, especially, Steve. I mean, they're the murderous nation. Look, they're right now in 7 countries waging wars.
Yes.
And always taking United States to
destroyed the entire Middle East. And Charlie Kirk was against going to war with Iran.
Yes.
And they're not done with Iran yet either. Goes on to say the Sanhedrin elevated Kirk to quasi-prophetic status, declaring Charlie Kirk was the wise of the nations of the world who understood reality clearly and understood the divine election of the people of Israel. On his desk was written, and yes, sure, it had these things written on his desk. But the point is, what they don't want you to know is Charlie was changing. They don't want you to know what was said in these posts here.
Can you go back to this article? I want to point to something really interesting here. You know how the word antichrist means not against Christ, but instead.
Yes, in the place of, right.
In the place of Christ. Well, who is the Antichrist? Well, look what they're doing. They're using scripture that speaks clearly about Jesus. It clearly
and putting themselves in his place.
Right. And instead of Christ, they're dethroning him and they're putting themselves on that seat.
Yes.
It's always that they're like, this is Sanhedrin writing.
Yes.
And they're talking about themselves as the Holy One.
Yes.
As the divine people.
That is instead of Christ.
This is instead of Christ.
Antichrist.
They are antichrists. This is the antichrist spirit.
Yes.
So I cannot understand, once you really dig deep and you really look at this, and if you do have Christ in you, how can you even be Zionist Christian? It's almost impossible once you truly understand what Christ is about.
Exactly.
And what the prophecies are about. So they're basically giving, I told you, they're lifting Charlie into sainthood, giving him prophetic status.
Yes.
And they're using it to promote Noahide laws and calling him righteous, probably a Noahide. He was a good Noahide for them. And here it is. They don't say Noahide laws, but every time they speak about observing 7 commandments of the sons of Noah, that's what Noahide laws are.
Exactly.
And it says here the declaration includes global religious mandate. Notice the language, global
Yes.
religious mandate. This is globalism. This is the new world order. This is the future religion of the globe, of the world, because this is where all of this will end, Steve. They are going to have this tiny success for a very, very short time. I really believe they're going to achieve this.
They will. They will.
For a short time. And then sudden distraction will come upon them because this is crazy. But look, Israel is getting away with murder, with genocide. They televise genocide. Now it's not even a big deal, Steve. It's like it's
an everyday thing. There's nothing left. I mean, finally the bombing stopped as of today, and the Egyptians rolled in a bunch of loaders to start clearing away in the middle of the city to make a refugee camp in there. But there's no place for people to live any longer.
What are they saying? The work okay, it says here the declaration includes global religious mandate. We call on all nations of the world to walk in his path. In Kirk's path?
Yes.
That's crazy. Yes. Here we go. Let's start here. The Sanhedrin presented a direct theological interpretation of the killing. In a terrible murder of Charlie Kirk, the fact stood out that those who oppose and hate Israel hold to the path of murder and violence. They're using killing of Charlie Kirk for themselves.
Of course.
The path to heal the world from murder and other injustices is through the people of Israel. What? So heal world from murder is through people of Israel when Israel committing genocide in front of the whole world. They are the ones who murder, and we are to learn from them peace.
Yeah.
That's
so hypocritical. Look, and in your face hypocrisy.
That's narcissism. That's psychotic to even. I can't even. This makes me so angry. So we call on all nations of the world to walk in his path, to understand that the key to repairing the world is the positive connection with the God of Israel and learning the good ways from his people. Israel, well, their God is Lucifer, and this is what rabbis actually admit.
Yes, they serve the serpent.
And it says here, learning good ways from his people Israel through observing 7 commandments of the sons of Noah as the Holy One. Blessed be he gave to the people of Israel at Mount Sinai. Well, that never happened. The 7 commandments of the Noah never were given on any Mount Sinai. This is all out of Talmud and brains of rabbis. This is out of Satan's mouth. All of this. This is so disturbing, Steve. It just really makes me angry.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. The Sanhedrin included what it presented as direct quotes from Kirk's campus debates. The solution for Gaza is complex because Gaza residents have shown. Well, they didn't show what he said later.
I do want to bring up something here real quick, too. And this is a statement they're making right here. The solution for Gaza is complex because Gaza residents have shown they're incapable of self-governance. When they were given self-rule, they chose Hamas in 2006 that ruled for years. This was because Netanyahu did not want 2 states. And so therefore, he pushed the Knesset to support Hamas and to fund them so that they could win the elections. And they did, and he continued to press for their support so that there would never be a 2-state solution. Then there comes, as Charlie Kirk pointed out, he said there had to have been a stand-down order given. He said, now I'm not willing to go so far as to say Netanyahu knew. He said, but somebody knew. All right. So he realized that something was wrong. And if he didn't know that Netanyahu was making sure Qatar sent suitcase loads of cash and set it before the Knesset, then something's wrong. Something's majorly wrong. So yeah, no, Gaza. Look, the Knesset, Netanyahu, Ben-Gvir, Smotrich, all of them are terrorists. That's what they are.
Yes, they are kahanists. Terrorists, kahanists, horrible. Disgusting.
You ready to move on?
Yeah.
All right, let's go now to the U.S. Secretary of Education's visits to LEC in Miami. That's an interesting thing there.
Yes, so basically she's among Chabad rabbis who are promoting Noahide laws. So they took her among them and to the Chabad school here and started influencing her for morality of the world, for the Noahide laws. And you know that they want to bring Noahide laws through education.
Yeah.
So this is why Trump is doing all this education reform. Everybody thinks, people on the right wing, they think, oh, we have great Trump. He is fixing education in America. No, he's not. He's changing, education so Noahide laws could come in.
Yes.
That's what he's doing. So that's what they did. They're influencing politicians, people in education system, whoever and everyone who they can, Steve, because Chabad organization is an organization that sends out proselytes.
Yes.
They proselyte, okay? And they are in every nation of the world, including China, North Korea, South Korea, you name it. They are in everywhere.
Yes.
And they are working on politicians in every country to bring Noahide laws to these nations. That's what their job is. Okay. So here you can see that they're influencing her, and she is, pardon my expression, this stupid and dumb that she actually buys whatever they're telling her.
Well, you got to remember, AIPAC is what probably got her in the position she's in the first place. So every single politician, practically, that takes money from this foreign entity is, having to do service for them. So
is how it says here that the visit began with a prayer for return of the hostages. What does that visit of her about education has to do with hostages? Absolutely nothing.
No.
Okay. So led by Boys Elementary School principal Rabbi Moshe Stern and a welcome by head of school Rabbi Ben-Zion Korf, who emphasized the importance of teaching morality and ethics rooted in God's guidance.
So what are we to learn then from the Israeli type of moral guidance? Okay, genocide.
Genocide, killing children.
Start as many wars as you want throughout the Middle East. That's about right. She also pointed to the administration's efforts to crack down on anti-Semitism on campus, opening investigations into colleges across the country and beginning to defund them. The president is absolutely and abundantly clear that anti-Semitism on campus will not be tolerated, that no one should have to face fear of being hurt on campus. Listen, free speech is not anti-Semitism.
No,
but yet, Charlie Kirk found out real quick, like he is being called an anti-Semite just because he dare question Israel's moral choices.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So
this is where we get into the Noahide law aspect of her visit. The visit
comes just weeks before U.S. marks Education and Sharing Day in April on the birthday of the Lubavitch Rebbe, who was a strong advocate for a moral education in a classroom and who pioneered the moment of silence in public schools. That moment of silence, when that was done in Florida by DeSantis, and it became a law. We did video on this.
Yes.
That the moment of silence, that came out of Schneerson.
Yes.
That's what he wanted. And why do they want it? It sounds so innocent, moment of silence. But they want to turn it into reflection about the Noahide laws.
Yes.
That's what they want. They want to control the kids and education in this country and the whole world. So that's what they're doing, even though it seems like it will never pass. Look how they're doing it. The moment of silence is already almost in all 50 states.
Mm-hmm.
And who takes credit for it? Chabad organization.
Yes, yes.
So that has some very evil intent.
Yes, it does.
And it has, if I was a parent of a child who's in public school, I would take my child out of public school right now.
No kidding, right?
Mm-hmm.
It goes on in that next part in there. We are grateful for Secretary Mahon's visit, and we wish her much success in restoring the moral compass of our country, the basis of which starts with the 7 Noahide Laws. All right, that says the rabbit Korf. But listen, the problem, notice they're already saying that she's the one that's going to spearhead that movement.
Is she Christian? I mean, how does she feel with the two?
I have no idea.
Like, she's surrounded with, if she's a Christian, just to be surrounded with somebody who hates Christ Jesus.
Right.
And them talking about ethical values. What a hypocrisy. Horrible. All right, Steve, let's get to the next thing. How disgusting. They just push themselves everywhere. All right, you can go to the next topic.
She is actually Baptist.
She's a Baptist. Mm-hmm. So, and she cannot see that these antichrists are around her.
Unfortunately, duped into believing yet another lie. So, Trump Sanhedrin's International Divine Court, IDC, aims to replace the UN.
Yeah, IDC will be instead of a UN. So, United Nations replaced with International Divine Court. Now, that was an interesting article I found that was written in March 2025. So, it speaks about the so-called unholy trinity of Trump, Musk, and Thiel are on unconstitutional rampage to impose technocratic tyranny of surveillance to make Zionist Israel great with the support of evangelicals. Now, the state of Israel or the Jews in Israel are going to control the AI. They're going to control entire technocratic world.
Yes.
And it's being programmed. AI that they will control and unleash on us is going to be programmed that if you speak against Israel, you will be punished.
Yes.
Okay.
And Peter Thiel, he's the leader of Vice President Vance. He's the one that got Trump to accept him and take him down to Mar-a-Lago to meet him down there. And the funny thing is, it was Vance that called Trump, a neo-Nazi at one point. But that all went water under the bridge once Peter Thiel decided that should be his running mate. So I thought that was interesting.
And this is Pastor Chuck Baldwin that spoke about this March 13, 2025. He said Trump aiming to replace the United Nations with organization of 70 colonial imperialist Zionist nations. Now, that was even 6 years ago, Steve. They formed this organization of 70 nations.
Yes.
And they were trying to strengthen Sanhedrin, and they're still doing it. But somehow 6 years ago, it didn't work out as it was supposed to work out. But it's still a plan. They're very patient. If something doesn't work out, they're just going to keep pushing until it does,
yes.
Right? So here, Pastor Baldwin said, I am on the record as saying, and I still believe, that the United Nations was created primarily for the purpose of being the birth canal for the Zionist state of Israel. Over the past 75 years, the perpetual ethnic cleansing and genocide by the Zionists continues. And he's absolutely correct. When they created United Nations, it was like a precursor to a future international divine court with the head of Sanhedrin, will be the head of it. And as you know, they are actually sending out from all of the world pro-Zionist pastors and people who are basically going to Israel and are being trained as Noahide judges.
And the funny thing is, there's 195 nations in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the biblical mandate of 70 nations, that's why you see this 70-nation push.
Yeah, everything is lie. All of it is just a made-up lie. It's a horrific thing what they're doing.
Which, by the way, the Septuagint says there's 72 nations, not 70.
Yeah. Well, the Masoretic text is always in contrast to the Septuagint.
Absolutely.
You know that.
Even though it was 1,000 years after Christ before it was ever published.
Oh, absolutely. That was all done by Jewish rabbis. They have changed the text. Unfortunately, that's what is used today in our Bibles, Masoretic text. But I really highly recommend that people get hold of the Septuagint. Well, anyway, it speaks here how Donald Trump will withdraw U.S. from the United Nations and how he's stopping the funding of UN educational, scientific, cultural organizations, and even if you noticed, Steve, Trump is defunding universities. So everything as we knew up till now is changing, and people think it's a great thing. No, it's not.
No.
They have to do this. They have to do this change in order for the Noahide laws to come in through education. That's what the changing of the funding is about.
Exactly right.
So,
exactly right.
Yes. On February the 12th, President Trump established Faith Office in the White House. This office is to enforce the Zion 7 Noahide laws, which in fact were concocted in a Zionist Israelite Talmud. And that's very true.
Yes.
So it's Paula White that is on the head of the Faith Office, Trump's Faith Office in the White House.
Right.
And we know that Paula White went to Israel, and she's being regularly schooled by Israeli rabbis and by one female rabbi. And she's her personal student. And she is the one who is spreading basically Noahide laws in evangelical movement. She said, you do not need to be a Christian to be saved. But if you are a Christian, if you're a Jew, you don't need to become a Christian. But if you are a Christian, you do have to learn from the Jews. That's what she said. Yeah, so this is a great article. You should actually leave this.
We'll put the links for these articles in the description once we conclude this broadcast today.
And I was speaking this long time ago that they want to replace the United Nations with International Criminal Court and Divine Court. And that's why they are already teaching future Noahide judges. And this scene of the entire world will suddenly change, and people won't even know, how did we come to this? Is this law changes like this? Defunding universities, defunding schools.
Right.
Once they get rid of this old system, the new system can come in.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to our next one here. Sanhedrin just called all Jews to move to Israel.
Well, that was back last year in November. I think we reported on this, Steve. But what it proves is that Sanhedrin is working in secret. It's being strengthened. And one day they're just going to come out as ready. So they're calling all Jews to move to Israel, at least all religious Jews.
Yes, absolutely.
Because that's what they need. They need religious Jews in Israel, even though a lot of secular Jews are moving out of Israel.
Yes. Okay. This one here.
That's a long time ago, 6 years ago. That's what we were talking about. They had a 70-nation organization, but it just didn't work out back then, Steve.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're getting ready to close, guys, here in just a moment. Jana's channel here on under
my
maiden name.
Twitter.
This is her Twitter here. And she just posted a video.
Oh, yeah. This is an ICE raided a building in Chicago, and they were pulling out actually United States citizens, and some of them naked.
That is terrible. ABC News
This
covered.
is what I was saying, that ICE is basically conditioning people to not be surprised when Nazi-like organizations are coming against Americans.
Right.
Yeah.
And they are, a lot of the police have been trained in Israel now for
Those
these
are the
types of terror
techniques and tactics of
That's where the
Israeli
masks
IDF.
come from, too. The IDF
Yes.
teaches that. Let's look and see what
I
it
spoke to
says.
one woman who actually lives in this building, and she said she was detained by ICE agents overnight, and she says they took everyone and then asked questions later.
They just treated us like we were nothing.
Patricia Fisher said she came out to the hallway of her apartment complex on the corner of 75th and South Shore Drive in her nightgown around 10 Monday night, only to find ICE agents yelling police.
It was scary because I've never had a gun put in my face. They asked my name and my date of birth and asked me did I have any warrants, and I told them no. I didn't.
She says she was then handcuffed and released around 3 a.m. Fisher says she was told if anyone had any kind of warrant out for them, even if it was unrelated to immigration, they would not be released. Citizen video shows the chaotic scene overnight. Neighbors tell us there were dozens of ICE agents.
Okay, so ICE is attacking United States citizens now.
Yeah, it's really getting bad because, we see all kinds of things like this out there. I saw this morning a video of a young mother with a very small child in the car with her. They right there in the street came up to her window. They're dressed in plain clothes. You don't hardly see any kind of identification whatsoever. And then she's telling them, "I've got a child in the car." They just busted her window out with a rod and drag her out of the car.
This is crazy.
It's the most unethical thing I have ever seen in law enforcement in all these years, and it's tragic. It really is tragic to see. And it's a shame to see that American young men would be willing to do such acts of violence against Americans.
Yeah.
And many of them are Americans. They're not. They even an illegal. I think people should learn from former President Bush, where he said, "Look, they're here. Give them the option to become citizens if they can. If they're not considered violent, do a background check on them." And give them a chance to get legal, let them pay back taxes, whatever the case may be. And let's do it that way. He said, that's the way to do reform. He said, Trump just likes to see his name in print.
Mm-hmm.
And so that would be a better way. The way that's going on right now, this is not putting America first.
Also, Steve, I want to bring attention in our conclusion to this post on my Twitter. I posted this today. According to new FARA filings, Israel has just hired a California firm to conduct the largest Christian church geofencing campaign in U.S. history in order to target evangelical churchgoers with pro-Israel and anti-Palestinian messaging. So this is what I was talking about, that they are paying enormous amount of money, okay, to certain firms to do. Can you make this bigger? Let's read this, what the activity is, what are they going to do? And they're starting in Colorado. Yeah, here we go. So, combat low American evangelical Christian approval of the nation of Israel. Use biblical arguments to highlight the importance of Israel and the Jewish people to Christians. Educate Christians on the historical importance of Israel and the significance in the region. Increase awareness of Palestinian ties to Hamas and support terrorism within evangelical populations. Encounter new and evolving pro-Palestinian messaging as the global narrative shifts. Well, this is the thing that you see. People are waking up. I have never before. I remember 7 years ago, you and I, we were debating Brown. We were talking about Noahide laws exposing Zionism, and it was a new thing. Like it was unheard of. Right now, Steve,
Everyone is starting to talk about
yeah, and especially young people. As I told you, people under 30 years of age, even in America, they don't like Israel anymore. They just don't like Israel.
You can't go out and kill everybody and justify it. You can't claim October 7th and, which the Israelis were the victims, yes. And at that time, they were the victims of their own government because their own government, while they live streamed what was happening to them, their own government would not allow the military to respond to save their lives.
Yeah.
The only heroes that day were those few Israelis that were armed that gave their lives trying to save their lives. Then they turned around and they, like with Charlie Kirk, they don't want you to know that Charlie Kirk was questioning Israel and what they're doing, just like they don't want you questioning why we didn't respond for 8 hours on October the 7th. It took us a whole day while we drank our coffee and watched all of our citizens be murdered and drug off. They didn't want you to know about that. So what they're going to do now is make sure they kill all the witnesses. That's why they want to kill every Hamas member. They've killed most all the Palestinians that live there. They went over there to Qatar and bombed and killed Hamas militants that were there. Because why? They were in the negotiations. They know Israel stood down. They know that anyone that knew anything about what happened on October the 7th, Israel has made sure they've killed them.
Mm-hmm.
They've tracked them down and killed them. Why? Because they don't want you to know that Netanyahu was involved. They talk about Greta Thunberg as being a paid Hamas flotilla person, right? Well, I don't doubt that Arab nations are the ones supporting the flotillas. I get it. They should, right? I agree with that. But the biggest supporter of Hamas was Benjamin Netanyahu when he stood before the Knesset in 2018 and demanded the Knesset members fund using Qatari cash by the billions to be funded to Hamas.
He needed that.
Yes, because he said he didn't want a PLO getting a two-state solution. So he funded. And then we had I forget the guy's name right offhand. He's a Palestinian journalist. He said that I asked him, I said, well, is it Hamas shooting the people? He said, no. He said the Israeli government brought in prisoners that were Palestinian prisoners that we had in our jails, and they armed them and they used them to shoot at our people. He said now they're using them to fight against Hamas. So, the truth comes out one way or the other. And, we don't support Hamas, but, Netanyahu did. And that's what we're trying to show the world.
Exactly.
And by the way, too, if you are following Charlie Kirk, I did a very interesting analysis not too long ago. And Colin also, he is elaborating on that analysis because I do believe, whether it's a corner shotgun that was used to kill him in behind the tent, Colin found not only the bullet, I found the laser off of Frank's phone, but Colin also found the shell casing falling down back in here and behind on the tent. I pointed out to him the cameraman was giving a good blocked footage where you couldn't see him. And whether it be a corner shotgun or whether it even be this gun right here, the MP5K, that's a briefcase breakaway gun, but the ejection chamber is so close to the barrel. It could have been anything like that. But he did an amazing job here as he shows you once the shot is fired, everybody back there, watch what happens here. Just really quickly show this here for a second because I think it's worth looking at just briefly. Watch what these guys do here. They immediately, because see, people, when you hear a shot, you turn to the shot. Look at the cameraman. Mm-hmm. Look at the other guy.
Yes.
It's like, who the heck just did that, right? And Colin, who's a former Marine sniper with Project Constitution here on Twitter there, young man has done an amazing job of bringing out a lot of evidence on this. And just like with us, Jana, we were told to shut up, stand down. Mm-hmm. I think Charlie started facing some of that. You're getting out of line. We lost a lot of support. He lost a lot of support.
Well, I don't think he lost support. What happened to him is just he had an enormous amount of support and offered support that he rejected.
Yes.
Lately. And I think, Israel, that was very risky.
Yeah.
I mean, if he exposed fully, holds on his propaganda and he changed, I mean, that was so dangerous.
Yes.
I don't think Israel could have survived as far as.
And I do think that Israel's behind it. I know that's a conjecture.
I fully believe they are.
Yeah.
Look, U.S.'s liberty, 9/11, JFK, you name it.
Yes.
It just continues.
Exactly. And, and we could take, even in our own case there as well, it cost your dad his life.
Yes, almost our life.
Yes, because I personally believe that we were targeted because of that.
We're going to
We
still
wouldn't shut
talk
up.
about this. We just, for a reason, we can't yet. Like, we, again, don't talk about this for a reason.
Another little short period.
Right, but
you
then
can
we're
look at
gonna
Mike Adams
fully-
has covered this story. Even Dr. Jane Ruby has spoke about this publicly now as well. It's going to gain more and more traction. So we want to thank you though, guys, for being here with us today. It did run live. I can see that it actually ran live here. And we have 464 people currently watching live. Share this video far and wide. Please do put it on your social media. If you are subscribed to us or not subscribed, please subscribe. If you are subscribed, double check that you are. Everyone keeps getting shut down on our subscriptions there. And so it's very difficult. The Charlie Kirk assassination, because of the videos we did there, we grew 3,000 people in a week. But that used to be on a regular basis. We grew that fast. But now they don't want you knowing the truth. So they really shadow ban us quite literally all the time. So thank you for listening, Stephen and Jana Benoon, and God bless you guys.